All right, let's stay with the story now and speak to Hasina Gori, who's been tracking developments in court for us. Hasina, we're talking off air that it feels like it's going to be another 3 years because it's the second day, same witness, and he's now under cross-examination. But one thing that I found interesting was that he was not the only one under the spotlight. Advocate Thabo found himself hitting it with the judge quite a bit.
So what we saw going through today was a lot of objection, but not coming from the defense as you'd expect. You know, you heard from the state prosecutor saying he's trying his best to allow for Advocate Thabo to go through those questions and to ask what he needs to, but the judge really interjecting many times, reminding the Advocate Thabo to keep within the realms of the questions that this witness can answer to, one, but also that when he has answered certain things, to move forward. And he actually at one point told Advocate Thabo that if he'd not had heard the answers, to come in early to court the next day and listen to those recordings and not ask and repeat questions after questions and get the same response from the witness and waste the time of the court specifically. I think that was one of the issues that came up, and you heard Advocate Thabo objecting to that, saying that he's going to put on the record that the rights of his clients are being violated due to this. So they really come to loggerheads. There was even a comment by the judge at one stage saying that every time I'd ask a specific question to, or he would ask a specific question to Advocate Thabo, he'd now go onto a tangent and ad nauseum move the point along, so asking him to really answer what's also being asked to him by the judge. So yes, he also came under fire from the judge and not from the defense as we expected.
Did he manage to poke the holes he was hoping for when it comes to the actual crime scene? Because there were moments when he was asking questions and I almost felt like he didn't know where he wanted to go to, because the judge asked him, what is the end goal with one of the questions, for example, and when he was asking about the address, but he then soon abandoned the question. So do we know where he's trying to get it here? So
when it comes to poking holes, he managed to get a small concession just before we adjourned today. You heard Sergeant Thabo Mosia, conceding when it came to the bullet fragment. That was a question that he'd asked quite a lot, like the difference between a projectile and a fragment, whether or not there was a casing that was found, and really trying to ask whether or not the firearm that the state presumes was used and was found on accused number 3 is the murder weapon. And that's where he's kind of trying to go with this, because the difference between a pistol and a revolver, which is a question that the judge left us at, is that one would leave a casing behind while the other wouldn't. And what the state is alleging in their case is that a pistol was used at that point, so a casing should have been at on the scene. And if it's not there, then could it have been a revolver that was used? And he had that small concession coming in from the state witness, who's a forensic officer, saying it could be, and the judge asking that when we do resume on Thursday, that he will then explain the difference between the two firearms and how it affects the evidence. That was one concession. The other was when it came with regards to the checkered hat that was found on the scene. It was alleged that this was from the suspect who left it behind when he left the scene, and it's alleged that accused number 3 is once again the suspect that entered that home and had a gun and ended up in a scuffle with the deceased Senzo Meyiwa, and then ended up being shot, and that was his hat that was left behind. However, according to the DNA reports that Advocate Thabo says brought into court today, that it is actually the DNA of a woman that was found on that specific hat, but also the walking stick. He asked the witness, why wasn't the walking stick taken in for evidence, and why wasn't it tested for any or swabbed? And the answer was that they knew who exactly the owner was. However, Advocate Thabo alleges that that was also used to assault the suspect during that incident and could have had some DNA. So while he hasn't really gone to what exactly his points are, he has poked some, or raised some questions at least, into whether or not the state's physical evidence and forensic evidence is as solid as it claims.
All right, it'll be interesting and explosive on Thursday then, Hasina, if even the alleged murder weapon is now under scrutiny. That's Hasina Gori there watching those court proceedings for us.